Hi friends, my name is Zoranne and welcome back to another video. I'm still working on an intro for YouTube videos. I'm not sure if I need to introduce myself every time. I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board for some intros, but this is what we're working with right now. I've got a fun video for you today. Today's video is one I hope you'll enjoy because I've made this video on my TikTok and Instagram before, and often on the bookish space, you'll come across people who have been book collecting for years, and then they end up with a library of something that looks like this that is insane and just way too many books. But after you've been collecting books for a while, you start to get books that are considered high value, whether they have high emotional value, high monetary value. Either way, these books that are considered high value become sought after in the book community, and you'll see people selling them for high prices or trading them. And then sometimes if you're a person who has these high value books, you get put on something called a rob list. It's not a real list. Like, nobody's gonna come rob you or rob me. At least I hope they wouldn't. But you get put on a rob list where it's like, oh my God, if I ever robbed your house, these are the books that I would take from you. I wouldn't steal anything else from you but these books that you own. So today I thought it would be fun to go through some books that would put me on some of your rob lists, because all of these books that are in a pile off frame are books that I have carefully curated over the years that I have been collecting books. Either some of these were sent to me from publishers, some of these books I bought right when they came out and now they've gone out of print and now they are very hard to find. Some of these I paid way too much money for, but I just needed to have them in my collection because I knew that I had to have them, and I wanted to have something that was of high value. And that's the fun of collecting. Like, sometimes book collecting for me isn't getting special editions, like from Illumicrate, Fairy Loot, Broken Binding. Like, those are all well and good, but I love a hunt. I love when it takes me months to find a book. I know it's really frustrating when it takes months to find a book, and it's sometimes those books are out of your price range. Often they are. But there's just something so thrilling about finding a book that has been on your wish list forever, and you're able to get it, and it's out of print, whether it be out of print, or maybe it is a special edition with the sprayed edges and the artwork, and it's just like, it's a limited run, it's signed and numbered, and there's something about it that makes it really high value, whether it's emotional value or monetary value, whatever floats your boat, girl. But it's really fun to collect those books, especially for me. I have a thing for books that are out of print. So books that are no longer in circulation, you can't buy them in a bookstore anymore, unless it's a used and rare bookstore, or I find these books on Facebook Marketplace, or somehow I get them from publishers. Usually those books in my rob list will be ARCs or advanced reader copies, so they're versions of books before they are published. Enough rambling, I'm now going to talk about these books that you might want to rob for me. That might make you clutch your pearls. So let's get into it. I'm also realizing that I'm totally wearing the same outfit that I wore to record my last YouTube video weeks ago. What about it? I like this hoodie. It's Jarrett's hoodie. It's very comfortable. It's oversized, and I wear it several times a week. So of course I'm just going to be wearing it in the next YouTube video that I record. Maybe this will just be like my YouTube outfit. I don't know. Okay, no more talking. Let's get to the books that you want to steal from me. I'm really curious to see what the comments are going to say, because some of these books are more rare than others. So I took a few moments to sort through the books that I have in front of me. I'm going to talk about these books from like lowest to highest perceived value of like what I think you will consider is lowest to highest, not what they're actually worth, because one man's trash is another man's treasure. Basically, all that's to say is I've broken these books down into three categories. The first category is books that they're paperbacks that are now out of print. Either the cover of the series had been changed, or they were self-published books and they got picked up by traditional publishing, meaning an author first published this book on their own, and then it got picked up by one of the big 5 publishers in the US, and it got republished, repackaged. And so I have the old cover sitting in front of me, and those are now considered robbable. The second category is going to be ARCs that I think people would want to rob from me. ARC stands for Advanced Reader Copy, and they are copies of a book that are sent out to influencers, creators, media outlets to read and review prior to a book's publication. And it's a version of a book that hasn't gone through the final copy edit yet. And so it's not the final version of a book, but ARCs are often printed in very limited quantities. So low print numbers, high perceived value because people want them for their collection. And that's why people want certain ARCs, especially if they're from popular books and authors who may not get a lot of ARCs, or publishers are very particular about who they send them to. And then the third category is going to be out of print hardcovers. Me personally, I think these have the highest perceived value because they went in print for like a year, or they were in print for a few years. Now they're out of print, and the only way you cannot buy them in store, and the only way you can purchase them is if you find them at a used bookstore or you purchase them from a reseller by way of Pango Books, Facebook Marketplace, Mercari. And you're usually going to buy these for higher than retail price because they're no longer in circulation. So they're not making them. There's a scarcity tactic there. They're going to be sold for a higher price. When getting some of these books, the best thing you can hope for is that you find someone selling them who has no idea what they have on their hands, and they sell it to you for like half the price, which is how some of these happened for me, and I have no idea how I did that. Nevertheless, let's get into it. I feel like I've rambled enough. Hopefully y'all can hear me. The first category of books I think you want to rob from me is out of print paperbacks. And the first one is, I couldn't believe I found this book because it is one of my favorite books of all time by one of my favorite authors. And I literally found this at a half price book for $8. Like, it was half off. And I'm surprised half price books sold this at half price because it's been out of circulation for a long time. But it is the original paperback edition with the original cover of Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Vicious is one of my favorite books of all time, and I think this cover is absolutely gorgeous. I love this rendition of Victor Vale being like the morally gray villain overlord that he is, or tries to be. This paperback is a little weathered and yellowed around the edges, and I kind of love that this out-of-print book has a little bit of character to it. And I feel like V.E. Schwab fans kind of fall into three camps. You've got your Vicious people, you've got your Addie LaRue people, and then your Shades of Magic people. After reading Vicious, I feel like I fall into the Vicious camp. Like, this is my favorite work of hers. So having an out-of-print copy of one of my favorite V.E. Schwab novels is very cool to me. And since I found it for such a great price, it just makes this prize feel even sweeter. And to make it even better, I met V.E. Schwab this past fall at YALLFest, and I got to interview them, and she signed and personalized my copy of Vicious, which is just, chef's kiss. Okay, these next two robbable books are going to be self-published paperbacks. So these books were originally self-published by the author, and then they got picked up for traditional publishing. But people who really love these books want to have the self-published edition because you can't find it anywhere. And the first one is the self-published edition of A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. One of my favorite books ever. You're going to sense a theme here. A lot of these books that I have are some of my favorite books that I've ever read, and so I have the out-of-print copies, and which makes them robbable. But having the self-published cover of A Dowry of Blood is so amazing to me. I love this edition, this illustrated edition to me, with the cover illustration by Marlo Loon is just, I feel like this cover fits this book so well because it is a reimagining of the story of one of Dracula's brides told from the perspective of Constanta when she's saved by Dracula and becomes a vampire herself, and just it's their abusive relationship told from her, like told in vignettes. And it is so good. And I feel like that, like, this book got picked up for traditional publishing by Orbit, and I like that cover, but I just love this one better. There's just something about the illustrations and I feel like this is just so gothic and eerie, and it just tells the story so much better. One of my friends actually just sent this to me for free because people are literally sell this book for like hundreds of dollars on Mercari. I don't know if it's hundreds of dollars anymore, but they definitely sell it for more than a regular paperback price, so I feel very honored to have the paperback edition of A Dowry of Blood. And then last, I don't know how much this one is actually worth right now because this book got published last year in October by Del Rey, but it was originally self-published by one of the self-publishing queens, M.L. Wong, and I have the paperback edition of Blood over Brighthaven, which is the next novel she published after writing The Sword of Kaigan, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I actually have not read Blood over Brighthaven yet, but I knew I had to support a queen when she came out with a new book, so I obviously bought the self-published edition of Blood over Brighthaven when it came out. And then it was announced that Penguin Random House acquired the publishing rights, so that's why we have a new cover, and it was repackaged and republished back in October. But I really love the self-published cover of this book. I just know that this is one of the, even though I haven't read this yet, I know this is a book that I know I will love because M.L. Wong can do no wrong in my eyes. Another cool thing about having like a self-published cover before it's re-released traditionally is that in case that book went under a series of editing, went under a round of edits or not, you have like the author's original words before it was reworked for traditional publishing. So I think that's really cool. You could potentially have two versions of a book, like you have the before version and the after version, which I think is just really fun, and I love that I have this book in my collection. On to the second category of books. These are all advanced reader copies that I think people would want to steal from me because they are from some very popular authors. Some of my favorite authors, and the fact that I have these in my possession is actually insane. I don't know how I got picked for these, besides just yapping online for years. But I mean, I guess being a weirdo and talking to yourself in front of a camera has its perks. That's why I always tell people to let their freak flag fly. Sometimes the weird people end up being like the really successful ones later in life. I don't know why I'm giving you a pep talk. Let's talk about some of these arcs. These first two are some of my favorite because they're not actually fantasy books. It's no secret that Emily Henry is one of my favorite romance authors and just one of my favorite authors in general. Whenever she publishes a new book, I feel like she's writing for me and no one else. And I have two Emily Henry arcs. And it is, in the publishing world and in like the bookish space, it is famously known that it is very hard to get arcs from Berkeley. I don't know why, but it is. But I have arcs of Happy Place and Funny Story by Emily Henry. I like Funny Story a lot more than Happy Place, but I'm just thrilled to have both of these in my collection. And I've been really fortunate to be able to read Emily Henry's books before they've been published into the public world. So here is the paperback. This is the paperback arc of Funny Story by Emily Henry. You know you have an arc on your hands when the on sale date is on the spine of the cover, and it often will say like the release date, and that there'll be like a non-removable sticker that says that it's an not for resale. So you really shouldn't sell arcs. Selling arcs is not good. It's not illegal, but it's just really frowned upon in the reading community because essentially they're not worth anything because these are not the final words that will be published in a book. But selling arcs is just in really bad taste because with all of these books, like it's the readers and the community that essentially puts value on them, but they're not actually worth anything monetarily. Like arcs are made really cheaply, like they're made on really cheap paper, they're glued together, like there's nothing super special about the way an arc is made, but the author's words inherently have value even if they're the final words in the proof or not. But I know Emily Henry is just such like a force in the romance community. Having an arc of her books just feels really special, and I know that some of her fans, if you're watching this video, might want to take these books from me. So yes, got two Emily Henry arcs. The next one I recently got late last year, and it was from one of my favorite authors. Orbit sent this to me, but it is an arc of The Fairy of the Gods by John Gwynne, which is one of my favorite fantasy series. And this one is special to me, one, because it's a John Gwynne book, and two, not often are there physical arcs for the third book in a series, mainly because if a series is popular, there's enough readers in that fandom or that community that will be excited about a book's release, so they don't really need to send out promotional advanced copies to get people excited about reading that book. Plus, if you release arcs for a third book in a series, you're more likely to have spoilers leaked, which is why a lot of super popular books now don't have advanced reader copies for them because they want to limit the circulation of spoilers, which is really sad because I thought we were all cool here, but some people aren't. But yeah, no, there was a very limited number of arcs for The Fury of the Gods. I got to interview John Gwynne. I'll link that video up here for the release of Fury of the Gods, and that was just a really special day and moment in my career. And having an arc of one of my favorite series from one of my favorite authors just really special to me. But I know that the John Gwynne community would probably want to steal this from me, just because it's just so cool. It's just so cool, you know? Okay, next is another V.E. Schwab book. Her latest novel coming out this summer is Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil. And back in October at New York Comic Con, which I attended, they were doing some arc drops of her newest book of Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil. And at the time, the cover had not been released yet. And so they were doing arcs with this exclusive red cover for New York Comic Con and like special events. And there was also like a black Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil cover circulating, but they weren't giving those away at New York Comic Con. So this was like a New York Comic Con like event exclusive. And I did not get this arc at New York Comic Con. I actually got it at Y'all Fest in Charleston in November by attending a meet and greet with V.E. Schwab. And when I posted this arc on my stories in a picture with V.E. Schwab, I got a lot of DMs that day about people who were like, I'm coming to rob you, Zoranne, you better lock your doors at night. And I was like, damn, I didn't really know it was like that, but I guess it's like that. So I guess having a copy of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil is pretty cool. Another fun fact about this arc is when I was interviewing V.E. Schwab, she said that she had like an epiphanous moment one day where she's like, I have to change the last lines of the book. And so before the book went into copy edits, before she could make like the final changes, before she could no longer make changes of Bury Our Bones, before like essentially the book goes to print, she changed like the last paragraph of the book. So the last paragraph, the last words of Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, do not match the last words that are in any of the arcs of Bury Our Bones, which I think is pretty cool. So I think that's a really good example of how the words that are inside an advanced reader copy aren't always the ones that make it into the final copy, which is why they call this like an uncorrected proof, in that you can't quote the words that are in the arc against the words that are in the final book without express permission from the publisher. But I think that's just a really cool fun fact about this arc in particular. This last book I know people want to take from me. I can't believe I'm even showing this one on camera, but I have to let you know that I have it because I said you guys would want to rob me. And I think you're going to want to rob me of my arc of Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Red Tower, this was like one of the first books that Red Tower published as an imprint, and nobody knew what Fourth Wing was going to be. We had no idea that it was going to be like a worldwide phenomenon and sell as many copies as it does, or go as viral as it went. And so they had like a normal arc campaign for this, sending out arcs to reviewers. A lot of people read it, a lot of people reviewed it, a lot of people loved it. Even with arcs and people reviewing the book ahead of publication, like it still hadn't blown up yet. It didn't blow up until after it was published. But since it got so popular, people wanted to start collecting like all of the editions of Fourth Wing. I even have the first edition hardcover with the dragon sprayed edges. I would go get it, but it's like over there, and I don't feel like I need to show you 2 copies of Fourth Wing because I feel like the arc is just cooler. So yeah, I have the advanced reading copy of Fourth Wing, and I know people want to rob this from me. So much so, I've had people DM me on Pango Books asking me if I would be willing to sell my arc, and I was really confused because I was like, you could DM me on any platform right now. Like you could DM me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter when I had it, even YouTube. I don't even know. You could DM me anywhere, but you DM me on Pango Books asking me if I would sell it. And when I said no, the person was like, oh, well, just let me know like when you want to sell it and I'll buy it from you. I was like, I'm not selling you this. 1, because I don't want to, and selling arcs is in bad faith. So I know y'all want this, and plus I would never actually sell this or probably give it away because it's actually not worth anything, because I've actually like read and annotated this whole thing. So I think I've compromised its value by tarnishing it with my own written words and tabs in the margins. So, I mean, if you want it, come and get it, but my doors will be locked. On to the last section of our video, out of print hardcovers. These books I am very proud that I have in my collection because I searched high and low for these. Some of them I searched high and low, some of them I just bought when they were released and now they're out of print and people want them and they're mad that I have them. And to that I say, sorry about it. I would say the books in this section of the video are going to be have the highest perceived value. The first one, I'll start with the one that's easiest. I bought this simply when it was still in print, okay? And like I said, there's a theme to this video. It's a lot of these books are some of my favorites ever. And that one is the hardcover of The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This is the US standard hardcover. This is now out of print. The only way you can buy this book in print is if you buy a paperback. I think the UK or some special edition companies might have this book available in hardcover, but this book, this specific edition, the US hardcover from Del Rey, is out of print. Beautiful cover. It's got some sick end papers. But, other than that, there's nothing really special about it. This book, this is one of those sleeper books. This blew up on a specific, niche side of fantasy book talk, and it often blows people away. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It is just a weird book that doesn't make sense until it makes sense. It plays with narrative structure. It's like a love story to oral storytelling. I'm not here to tell you about what the book's about, because honestly, the less you know going into it, the better. But I love that I have one of my favorite books of all time, and it's out of print Glory. And that's basically it. It's just, I bought this for the standard retail price, and now it's gone. So if you want to buy it, you have to look on the secondhand market, like Mercari, Depop, Pango Books. Hope you find someone who doesn't know what they have and be able to buy it for a reasonable price. But yeah, no, I love that I have this. Okay, these next two books are out of print hardcovers. I bought them secondhand. And so I paid a little bit more for them. In particular, I have the hardcover of Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. Unfortunately, I think I paid $60 for this, and you're probably thinking, that's a lot for a hardcover. And yeah, but it was out of print. I found this, I think I just put up a post on in a Facebook buy, sell, trade group. That is a good way. Segue. That is a really great way to find books that are on your wish list, is to join Facebook groups that are specific for buy, sell, trading, like special edition, out of print, rare books. If you join those groups and scroll through them from time to time and search for what you're looking for, there's a good chance you'll find someone who's selling what you want to buy, and you can try to bargain with them, and that's how you can find stuff. That's how I found Foundry Side. I think I put up a post one day saying like, hey, looking for the hardcover of Foundry Side. I'm US based. This is how much I'm willing to spend. And someone was like, I'll have it. I have this, DM me. And then they were like $60 and I said, sure. I don't know. There is a trend with Penguin Random House books, I will notice, because like this is published by Penguin Random House, Del Rey specifically. This is also published by Del Rey. After about a year after books are published, a year and a half before the paperback is released for a specific book, they will phase out the hardcover, and this is what happened to Foundry Side. And I was like, and I'm really anal retentive about like editions of books. Like if I have a series, I want them all to have matching editions, which is why I was really distraught when I had the paperback of Foundry Side, and then I had the hardcover of books 2 Shorefall and book 3, what is it? I don't even know. Where are you? So I was really annoyed when I had like a paperback of Foundry Side and I had the hardcovers of books 2 Shorefall and book 3 Locklands. So I was like, no, these have to match, because I don't want these like ridiculous height differences, and I just want them to look really cohesive. So that's when I went to Facebook Marketplace and I was like, hey, and that's how I found this hardcover of Foundry Side. So yeah, there's nothing special about it. It's literally just the standard US edition, but I paid $60 for it just so I could have a matching set on my shelf, and that's the kind of reader I am. Okay, next, a series I haven't read yet, but I own all 3 books for. I have the hardcover of Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is from Simon & Schuster. They do a similar thing where they phase out the hardcovers of certain books when the paperback releases, and so I know this is probably a series that I'm really going to enjoy, and so I wanted to have the hardcover because it's out of print, and I wanted, like, the series was still being published, and I knew the next books in the series were going to be published in hardcover, so that meant I had to find book 1 in hardcover. Luckily, I found this one on Pango Books for like $10 or something, so I really didn't overpay for this. That person who was selling it didn't know what they had and that this was out of print, and they could have sold it for a lot more money than what they sold it for. But yeah, no, I bought it basically in brand new condition, secondhand, and that's how I found it. I just really love scouring the internet for stuff. So now I have a perfect matching set of the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. I think that's what this is called. So yeah, that's how I found Black Sun. Okay, the next one is the UK hardcover of The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Often in the UK, for whatever reason, not a lot of books are published in hardcover. I don't know why. I don't live in the UK. If you live in the UK, you might be able to explain why, but it's not often that a book is published in hardcover, and if it is, there's literally only 1 or 2 print runs before they don't print the hardcover anymore, so hardcovers are really limited to come by, and The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern is one of them. This is just like the standard UK edition with the beautiful, like, scrapbooky looking cover. There is a Waterstones edition that had some like sprayed stenciled edges on it. That is not this one, but this is one of my favorite books ever, and I found this on Depop for like $15 from a girl in the UK, and I paid like the $15 and the international shipping for it, which made it like 40 something bucks, which is probably way too much again, but I wanted this book because it's one of my favorites of all time, and this was a sought after edition, and people in the US were selling it for way more than I wanted to pay for it. So that's why I bought this out of print hardcover, and I think it's just a really cool addition to my collection because I like this cover way more than the standard US edition. we're coming into the final stretch. This is one of the most insane things that I've ever done as a reader. And I bought an entire set. I bought an entire series in the UK hardbacks that I hadn't even read yet. And I spent, I think, over $300. I found these on Facebook Marketplace in a buy-sell trade group because they were so gorgeous and I wanted to have them so bad. And it is the UK hardback set of the Daevabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. Nothing special about these except like there was very limited print run in the UK, standard hardbacks. This River of Silver. But yeah, I spent a lot of money on these. People would sell these for $800, $700, $600. Sometimes you find someone selling them for a reasonable price, and it was just, and as soon as they put them up for sale, they would get snatched. And so I was never fast enough, but I just wanted these because I had a feeling, just a feeling that I would love this series. And I do love this series a lot. And I have the US hardbacks too, so I have 2 sets of these books. But there was just something about these UK hardcovers designed by like Michaela Alcano that I needed to have in my collection, and I spent an embarrassing amount of money on them. And I know for a fact that people want to rob me for these just because of how sought after and in demand they are in like Facebook groups. I don't know how in demand they are at the moment because I haven't looked because I already have them now and I don't want to sell them. But I know this puts me on a rob list for something. I know it does. Okay, and last, probably the most valuable book in my collection. I can't believe I have this. This is another case of like I had to have it because I own the entire series and I'm just insane. And the series has gone through so many renditions of covers. And it's a series I'm actually currently reading. But I have the purple edition of The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon. This is just like, there's such a weird story behind this book and this series. I have the original covers of the series because now I have them right here. They got cover redesigns for like the revised editions. And they're very gorgeous, but like this series, these covers have been repackaged several times. I don't have time in this video to go through what happened in this series, but I believe my friend Emma has gone into depth about the explanation of the Bone Season series repackaging, and if I can find that video, I think it's on either Instagram or TikTok, I will link it in the description. But long story short, while the books were being published, book 3 was coming out. This is book 3, The Song Rising. That's when Bloomsbury wanted to do a cover change, but they wanted to honor the original covers, and so they produced a limited run of The Song Rising in its original cover style, so collectors could have a matching set. But they only did like a limited run of like 500 or 1,000 copies. Don't quote me on those numbers, but it was like a really limited number. Like you couldn't buy them through like the website or whatever, like a retail website. Like I can't remember, I wasn't there. But long story short, these were really limited. They became really sought after because they sold out so fast, and only 500 to 1,000 people are gonna be able to have matching sets of one of their favorite series. Like it's just an insane thing on Bloomsbury's part. And like I said, you'll have to watch Emma's video to get the whole spiel, the whole story, because now there's just like, now this cover is like worth probably even more because the original covers aren't even in print anymore since they redesigned these covers. I wanted to have the purple cover because after all this controversy, people hated the new covers that Bloomsbury designed. So they eventually went back to the original version of the original design of these covers. And so they could have printed all of The Song Rising in the original cover, but they didn't because they switched the covers and then they switched them back, and then it was a whole mess. So there's a whole bunch of people who have the original covers of the Bone Season series, but they have the only one that doesn't match is The Song Rising, except for like a few people who have this cover. And it goes for an insane amount of money online. Like it's actually insane. But one of my friends, she actually just gave it to me. She's like, I hate hardcovers. I'd rather have the paperbacks of this series. And so also these books came signed by Samantha Shannon. And so she was just like, you can have it. And I was like, girl, are you serious? And she said, yeah. So she just gave it to me. I didn't have to pay a dime for this book. And so I know for a fact that I have to lock my doors at night simply because people want to steal this book from me, because it's insane. Like there's just so much lore behind this series. And by the way, I'm almost done with book 2 right now. This book, like this series is so good. I can't wait to binge all of it. But this is like, I'd probably save this book in a fire and I haven't even read it yet because I could probably sell it and be able to pay for a new house if my house burned down. That's an exaggeration, but that's just what I'm saying. Like, these are like the kind of books that people want to steal from collectors. my camera's gonna die, but thankfully I was able to get through all of the books that people want to rob from me. And it's quite a lot. I realized I had more books in my collection than I originally thought that people might want to steal from me. So now, since I've wrapped up all these books and we're coming to the end of the video, I have a question for you. Out of all the books that I showed you today, which one would you want to rob from me? Like, I mean, there's some pretty good options here. Personally, I'd probably try to steal the song Rising, or the Fourth Wing arc, maybe even the Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil arc. There's a few of them here, and I would love to know which book you would want to rob from me in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, friends!